Imagine running a red light, right?
Mm.
You get a traffic ticket, and then you're told that you didn't just break a municipal code, you literally violated the spiritual laws of the cosmos.
Right, which sounds, I mean, it sounds completely absurd at first.
Yeah, exactly. Normally, we keep those two things entirely separate. You have your physics and civil law in one box, and then spirituality or divine will is just tucked away in another.
Completely compartmentalized. But today we're looking at a map of reality where, well, physics, spirituality, and even your local government's laws are all basically the exact same thing.
It's wild. So, welcome to this custom deep dive. Today, our mission is to explore this really fascinating philosophical essay written in 2006. It's by an author named Hundun Grass, and it's titled Reply to Dawei 2.
And the goal here for you, the listener, is to unpack these three massive, totally interconnected cosmic frameworks that are laid out in this text.
Right, which are the heavenly principle, heavenly laws, and heavenly mysteries.
Yeah, and we're going to distill these really heavy, massive ideas into clear concepts that connect ancient spiritual frameworks straight to modern science and, to your daily life.
Because this text, it doesn't just ask you to blindly swallow dogma.
No, not at all. It asks you to observe patterns. It really pushes you to look critically at the mechanics of the world around you.
Yeah.
We'll be looking at how these three concepts function together to explain, literally everything from the invisible intent of the universe down to the equations of thermodynamics.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the largest framework, right? The ultimate foundation, which the text calls the heavenly principle.
Right, the core of it all.
Yeah, the text describes this as the core consciousness, like the literal will of what it calls the greatest creator.
Which is often referred to in the text as the principle of the way. It's you can think of it as the overarching set of parameters that govern the entire operation of the universe.
Including life itself.
Exactly, the evolution of life itself. The text establishes this really clear equivalence, basically saying heaven is the way and the way is heaven.
And the author goes even further, right? Connecting the way directly to the greatest creator. Like, the text states that beyond heaven there is another heaven, meaning, beyond the way is the creator.
Right.
But because they're entirely intertwined, heaven is the creator and the creator is heaven. It's like this endless loop.
It is. And it shifts the principle from being just some passive set of rules floating out there into an active, permeating intention. What's fascinating here is how the text points to everyday human behavior to prove this connection.
Yeah, the behavioral stuff was so interesting.
Right. It argues that the concept of this creator is already hardwired into our instincts.
Yeah, the text points out something so universally relatable here. Think about what happens when someone, literally, regardless of their actual religious background, gets overwhelmed.
Or terrified.
Or terrified. Or even just, stubs their toe really hard. People instinctively yell out, "Oh, heaven," or "Dear heaven," or "Oh, God."
Right, it's automatic.
Exactly. And the author argues that these everyday exclamations, they aren't just cultural idioms that we picked up. They are unconscious, reflex-level prayers.
Look at default setting.
Yeah, deep down, the human operating system is programmed to appeal directly to the greatest creator when the local hardware fails.
That instinct is just built into the human experience. But, the text doesn't stop at psychological reflexes. It actually defines the specific operational traits of this heavenly principle.
Right.
And it presents a really profound paradox. It says the principle is infinitely subtle, yet contains nothing. It's infinitely vast, with nothing beyond it.
Formless.
Entirely formless and nameless. It makes no arbitrary distinctions between things.
But then simultaneously, it is described as perfectly just, right? Like completely impartial and meticulous in every single detail.
Which seems contradictory, but yeah.
It rewards and corrects with absolute precision. The text calls it a universal net of law.
And
There's that old phrase, heavenly principle will not tolerate it, which implies this invisible web of consequence that nobody and literally nothing can escape.
And that redefines the traditional concept of God or heaven in a huge way. So often, people picture, a distant figurehead.
Right, like an old guy on a throne in the clouds.
Exactly, a king making somewhat arbitrary decisions based on who is asking nicely or who prayed the loudest.
Yeah.
But this text describes a localized, omnipresent system of perfect cause and effect. It is completely neutral. It means the universe isn't chaotic at all. It is meticulously just, basically constantly returning all systems to a state of perfect equilibrium.
Which makes me think of, well, a really functional modern equivalent. I was reading this and thinking the heavenly principle operates exactly like a smartphone's core operating system.
Oh, I like that. Tell me how you see that working.
So as a user, you never actually see the source code of your phone's operating system, right?
Right, it's completely hidden.
Yeah, it's completely formless to you. You just interact with the apps, the screen, the tangible stuff. But that invisible underlying OS dictates absolutely every single thing that happens on the device.
Okay, yeah.
It is, as the author describes the principle, invisible and traceless, yet invincible everywhere. If you input the right command, or as the text says, if sincere faith seeks it, the system responds instantly.
Just works.
It just works. But if you try to break the core code, if you try to hack it, the system crashes and forces a reboot to restore equilibrium. It strictly enforces cause and effect.
That analogy captures the mechanics perfectly, actually. The heavenly principle is the universe's ultimate background software. It just ensures every action generates an equal reaction, constantly maintaining the balance of the whole thing.
But, and this is where I got really curious, if that universal OS is running silently in the background, how does it actually handle the specific, messy hardware of our daily lives?
Because human existence is highly complicated.
Right. We don't just exist as pure formless code. We have jobs and traffic lights and taxes.
Right. So to answer that, we have to scale down from the universal to the specific. And this brings us directly to the localized rules of reality, which the text calls the heavenly laws.
Heavenly laws.
Okay.
According to the text, the universe is 36-dimensional.
Yep, 26 dimensions.
And every single realm within those 36 dimensions where life exists has its own specific commandments, regulations, and rules.
Think of it like the laws of physics.
Mm-mm.
The heavenly principle is like the concept of gravity, right? It
Yeah.
applies everywhere across the universe. But heavenly laws are like the specific atmospheric pressure on a given planet.
Oh, okay.
If you travel from Earth to Mars, the universal principle of gravity is still governing you, sure. But the local atmospheric rules completely change. You have to adapt to the new environment.
Right, you need a spacesuit.
Exactly. So heaven has its own heavenly laws. Hell has its laws. The text mentions higher dimensions like the thousand-year world and the Elysium world.
And the beings living there have to observe their own specific cosmic constitutions.
Yes.
Which brings us back to Earth, right? The human world. And here is where the author makes what I think is a massive leap. The text states that the constitutions and laws established by various human nations, like literally the municipal codes and federal laws passed by governments, are the heavenly laws of the human world.
It really pulls the concept of the divine down into the gritty reality of, like, a local courtroom.
Wait, I have to challenge this, though, because I think any listener would.
Go for it.
Human laws are deeply flawed. I mean, sometimes they are blatantly corrupt, unjust, or passed by dictators just looking to enrich themselves. Are we really supposed to believe that, like, a tax loophole passed by a corrupt politician is somehow a heavenly law?
It's a great question, and it's a crucial distinction to make here. The text isn't saying that human politicians are divine beings making flawless rules.
Good, because that would be a tough sell.
Right. You have to look at it from the perspective of cosmic equilibrium. The universe fundamentally seeks harmony. Human societies, at their core, create laws as a localized, albeit highly imperfect, attempt to maintain that harmony.
Because without them, it's just anarchy.
Exactly. Without constitutions and laws, human society collapses into chaos. Even flawed software is better than a completely crashed system.
Okay, I see.
So, within the specific atmospheric pressure of the human realm, violating the established order creates localized friction, and that friction triggers a consequence.
So running that red light we talked about at the beginning, it isn't a sin against the formless greatest creator directly. It's a violation of the localized harmony of this specific human dimension.
Precisely. And violating these localized heavenly laws inevitably brings punishment to restore the balance. The text actually brings in some incredibly memorable examples from Chinese mythology to illustrate how this mechanism works.
Yeah, like the 7 fairy maidens. According to the legend, they were punished by the heavens for sneaking down to the human world without permission. Basically, they violated the border laws of their specific dimension.
Exactly. And then there's Marshal Tianpeng, a celestial commander who flirted with the moon goddess Change.
Right.
He broke the code of conduct for his realm and was banished to the human world, where he was reborn as a pig. The famous character Zubaji from Journey to the West.
Which is wild. And the author acknowledges these are mythological stories, but he uses them to highlight the underlying mechanism, right?
Yes.
When human beings violate our human constitutions and laws, we get punished by the human justice system.
Yeah.
It's the exact same principle of cause and effect playing out, just on a different scale.
And it also scales across all forms of life, not just humans and celestials. This is where the text offers a really profound perspective on reincarnation.
Oh, right. The pig and dog thing.
Yeah. It states that if a human being lives a life that is, quote, worse than a pig or a dog, meaning entirely ignoring the moral and civil laws of the human realm, they degrade their spiritual code.
Right.
Well, as a result, they might actually be reborn into the animal kingdom.
Because they couldn't handle the operating system of the human dimension, so they literally get downgraded to a simpler set of laws.
Exactly. And here is where the perspective shift gets really wild. To an animal, human constitutions and laws appear to be heavenly laws.
That is fascinating. Like, we look up at the rules of the cosmos as these incomprehensible divine mysteries, but a dog looks up at us the exact same way.
Exactly.
When you train a dog not to jump on the couch, from the dog's perspective, your house rule is a literal heavenly law coming from a higher, totally incomprehensible dimension.
That's spot on. And the animal kingdom possesses its own internal heavenly laws, too. The author urges us to look at the natural world carefully. Insects, plants, animals, they all follow their own strict social orders, migration patterns, and natural boundaries.
Yeah, like a beehive operates on incredibly rigid heavenly laws.
Yes, perfect example.
So it's layers of laws all the way down.
Yeah.
And if human laws are the cosmic laws of our realm, then figuring out human reality isn't just a matter of, bureaucracy or basic survival. It's essentially a divine mission.
Which perfectly explains the next part of the text.
Right. I was wondering, is that why the author suddenly pivots from talking about spirituality and mythology to talking about science?
That is exactly why. Because once you understand that you are bound by these localized laws, the next logical step for any conscious being is to try and decode them.
Right.
And this brings us to the third framework, heavenly mysteries.
Heavenly mysteries. The text defines these as the hidden mechanisms and profound principles through which the universe operates in an orderly fashion.
Right.
They are the secrets of time, space, and the evolution of life, constantly concealed within the everyday phenomena of transformation and change.
And, in a lot of traditional texts, divine mysteries are treated as purely mystical. They are unknowable, locked away in a sacred temple where you just have to take a leap of faith to accept them.
Right. But if you're sitting there listening and thinking, wait, scientists rely on empirical data, not faith? Well, the author actually agrees with you. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
The text argues that empirical data is the divine language. It completely erases the battle between science and religion. The grand reveal here is that science itself is the active pursuit of heavenly mysteries.
It's such a brilliant reframing. The author makes a comprehensive list to prove this, actually. He lists the principle of buoyancy, the law of gravity, Newton's laws of action and reaction, thermodynamics, electromagnetism. He even cites Einstein's mass-energy equation, E equals mc squared.
Let's actually look at MC through this lens for a second, because I loved this part. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. Usually we just see that as a physics equation on a chalkboard.
Right.
But the text is saying this equation is a literal heavenly mystery, because it describes the exact mechanism of how formless, invisible energy materializes into physical reality.
Yes.
It's the mathematical translation of the heavenly principle at work.
It bridges the gap perfectly. What scientists devote their entire lives to pursuing in laboratories are precisely these heavenly mysteries. Every molecular formula, every observed chemical reaction is quite literally a decoding of the divine order.
And it's not just the hard sciences either, which surprised me.
Oh, definitely not.
The text categorizes fields like medicine, psychology, sociology, and psychiatry as explorations of this order, too. Like, human society's developmental laws, the things sociologists write massive textbooks about, are framed as heavenly mysteries.
Because human society is part of the 36-dimensional structure. Studying how humans behave in groups is studying the heavenly laws of this dimension.
It completely reframes what a scientist is. In this framework, scientists aren't secular opponents of the divine. They are the universe's ultimate detectives. They are using the magnifying glass of statistics, peer review, and the scientific method to actively decode God's diary.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, think about the level of empowerment this offers the individual.
Yeah.
The text insists that heavenly mysteries are not locked away. They exist everywhere, in every single moment. The author explicitly states that whoever carefully observes, diligently reflects, and skillfully analyzes patterns and statistics will gradually discover them.
The scientific method as a literal spiritual practice, that's just incredible.
It is.
Analyzing a spreadsheet of behavioral data or observing cellular division under a microscope is a way to discover divine truth.
So if the heavenly principle is the invisible operating system, and the heavenly laws are the localized atmospheric conditions,
Right.
then the heavenly mysteries are the aerodynamic equations we use to build airplanes and actually navigate those conditions. Scientists are the ones reverse engineering the math of reality.
But, okay, that raises a massive logical problem for me.
Let's hear it.
If decoding these mysteries through observation is the ultimate goal, and it's this noble divine pursuit, why shouldn't we try to know everything immediately? Right. If this author, Hunden Grass, understands how all these nested realities work, why wouldn't he just reveal the answers? Especially when it comes to the future.
And that tension perfectly introduces the final section of our analysis today, the ethics of knowledge. This specifically revolves around a question the author received concerning the year 2013.
Right, some context is definitely needed here for the listener. This essay is a reply to Dalwai.
Yes.
Dalwai had written a letter asking questions, and the big one was about what was going to happen in the year 2013. We have to remember this text was written in November 2006.
So 2013 was 7 years away.
Exactly. And this was an era when society was deeply anxious about the future. The 2012 Mayan calendar predictions were everywhere.
Oh yeah, the end of the world craze.
People were obsessing over prophecies of global calamity.
Right.
So Dalwai wanted the inside scoop.
Which is totally understandable. The instinct to want certainty, even if it's negative certainty, is a really powerful human drive. But the author refuses to elaborate. He categorizes the events of 2013 as a heavenly mystery that should not be explained casually.
But I'm going to push back on behalf of the listener here. Isn't having more information always better to prepare for a calamity? Why hold back?
It seems counterintuitive.
Yeah. If you know a storm is coming, wouldn't giving people the exact blueprint help them survive it?
This raises an important question about the mechanics of reality we just discussed. Giving people the blueprint actually alters the outcome in a really dangerous way.
Oh, so?
The author outlines the sociological and psychological dangers of improperly explaining these mysteries. He says it disturbs the normal order of daily life. It creates unnecessary pressure for governments. And most importantly, it causes deep spiritual anxiety.
The author uses a brilliant analogy here to explain the ethics of prophecy. He says knowledge of the future is exactly like medicine. Quote, taken in the proper amount, it promotes healing. Taken in excess, it endangers life.
It's a perfect comparison. A moderate, measured warning acts as preventative medicine. It encourages people to course correct.
Like saying, hey, maybe build a stronger roof.
Exactly. But excessive promotion of a detailed, terrifying prophecy, that's an overdose. It creates a state of mental terror.
And fear paralyzes, which actually violates the core mechanism of the heavenly principle. The text emphasizes that everything in the universe is in constant motion. Quote, movement produces change, and change gives rise to further movement.
Exactly. The future isn't some static timeline locked in a vault somewhere. It is actively generated by the heavenly principle responding to our immediate actions.
Right.
So if you paralyze an entire population with an apocalyptic prophecy, you halt the positive movement and change that is required to navigate away from that bad future.
Because they just give up.
Exactly.
The author notes that a single thought, whether good or evil, can ultimately lead to vastly different outcomes. Results as far apart as sky and earth, he says. So by refusing to answer the 2013 question, he is actually protecting the timeline. He's prioritizing humanity's psychological well-being over the ego trip of playing the grand prophet.
He denies them the certainty of prophecy to force them into active participation in their own survival. It's an incredibly mature, highly ethical spiritual stance.
And he doesn't just leave them with despair either. He offers a definitive roadmap for navigating whatever mysteries the future holds.
Right, the 4 requirements.
Yeah. He says humanity has a bright future and will overcome calamities, provided we do 4 things. Revere the greatest creator, revere lifelike, capital L-I-F-E, revere nature, and follow the way.
And notice how those 4 actions tie everything we've talked about together. By revering nature and life, you are upholding the localized heavenly laws of the human dimension.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And by following the way, you harmonize with the heavenly principle. When you align your daily actions with the universal operating system, the heavenly mysteries of cause and effect naturally steer you toward a positive outcome.
So what does this all mean? Let's synthesize the map we've explored today.
Let's do it.
We started at the absolute highest level, the invisible, perfectly balanced operating system of the heavenly principle. We scaled down to the localized heavenly laws, realizing that human constitutions, even the flawed ones, are our localized attempt to maintain cosmic harmony.
Right.
Then we've entered into the heavenly mysteries, discovering that empirical data and scientific equations are the literal language of the divine.
Yeah.
And finally, we arrived at the profound wisdom of knowing when a mystery should be left unsolved, understanding that too much knowledge of the future can paralyze the actions needed to create it.
It is a profoundly unifying framework. It takes the fragmented boxes of human experience, religion, civics, physics, psychology, and proves they are all running on the exact same underlying code.
And it leaves you, our listener, with a highly practical lens for your own life. Think about this. If human laws are the heavenly laws of our dimension, and if scientists uncover heavenly mysteries just by observing everyday phenomena, what invisible patterns in your own daily life are actually heavenly mysteries waiting to be noticed?
That is the crucial question. The next time you drop an object and watch it fall to the ground, or the next time you observe a behavioral pattern playing out in your workplace or you read a new psychological study,
Yeah.
ask yourself, are you just passively living life, or are you actively decoding the universe?
Are you just staring at the map, or are you finally learning how to read it?
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. We hope this journey provided some serious clarity and, a completely new way to view the world around you.
Keep observing, keep reflecting, and keep exploring the patterns hidden in plain sight.
We'll see you next time. Keep questioning everything.